The situation in Syria is becoming more precarious by the day. After Aleppo, the rebels have now taken control of the city of Hama. This is despite a promised counteroffensive by the Syrian army. At the moment, any scenario seems possible, and escalation highly likely, given the Syrian state's involvement in the fight against terrorist groups and the actions of neighboring countries. Uncertainty is growing in Damascus, the country's capital. Successive rebel victories show the weakness of the Assad government and its main ally, Russia, which either cannot or will not effectively support the Syrian army. We have been living here for years in constant fear and extreme terror. The only thing left for us is to pray to God and ask Him to protect our country and bear our problems. Everyone is afraid. We live in fear and anxiety of what will happen next, how the situation will develop, where it will take us. The situation is being closely watched by Syria's neighbors, including Lebanon, which would likely face another huge wave of migrants if the conflict worsens, and Israel, which fears for its security. A situation in which another country on Israel's border becomes unstable is worrying. We must be prepared for all eventualities, including the fall of the Assad regime and the emergence of terrorist groups that will pose a new threat to Israel. And that threat is the chemical weapons possessed by the Syrian military and used during the country's brutal civil war, as has been widely reported by the Israeli press. Israel is worried that, having seized control of military sites belonging to the Assad regime, all this at a time when the situation in the Middle East seemed to be calming down, at least temporarily, after a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah, and increasingly clear prospects for peace in the Gaza Strip. The war in Ukraine has overshadowed these Middle Eastern issues. We have Syria, we have Lebanon, which is so important. It used to be the Switzerland of the Middle East, but as a result of the war, it has received 2 million refugees from Syria, compared to its 4.5 million inhabitants, which has destabilized the country politically, religiously, and economically. We can see what the effects are. So we have to learn from all this in Europe, because we see that the situation is very unstable, very dynamic. In Israel itself, the situation is slowly but steadily returning to normal. It is safe here at the moment, although empty. Few tourists are choosing to travel to the Holy Land this year, as last year, because of the conflict. What will happen next? Everyone is waiting. At the moment, the hotels are practically not working. Tourist transportation is not working. Of course, the tickets are empty. I encourage the more adventurous to come and see how pleasant it is to visit Israel at this moment, as all the places are available, open daily, and functioning despite the lack of tourists. And it's also a very real loss to the economy, on both sides, of the bloody, devastating conflict in the Middle East.